Well then, anything can happen in Overwatch League, with Seoul suffering another insulting loss, this time to LA Valiant, pushing them out of the playoffs, giving LA Valiant, Houston Outlaws, Boston Uprising and even Philadelphia Fusion a chance at the playoffs. While London Spitfire, who are still at the third spot at the leaderboard, overthrew NYXL to claim the Stage 1 championship title. As Stage 2 of Overwatch League kicks off this week with new maps and a non-mercy meta, let's round off Stage 1 of Overwatch League for you guys.
Savior be in the back lines.
Yep, that's right. Savior B gets caught by the self-destruct. New York continues to try to grind for it, but now Fury.
Hi friends, this is KanKicks giving you the information that you need going into Stage 2 of Overwatch League. The biggest upset of the league this week was Seoul Dynasty dropping out of the playoffs. If somebody at the start of the league would have told me that Seoul Dynasty, the titans of Overwatch League, will not be able to make it even to the playoffs, I would have laughed out my coffee all over their faces. Now, what exactly is a stage playoff? Well, all throughout the league, there is this leaderboard that is maintained on map win losses and map scores. If there is a win-loss tie between any of the teams, the map score is used to decide who gets to rank up. The top 3 teams are called seeds at the end of any stage. These top 3 seeds move on to the stage playoffs for the stage championship title, where the second and the third spot team are pitted against each other and the winner goes on to challenge the top seed, ultimately deciding who is the champion for that particular stage. Seoul Dynasty's exit from the third spot seed is what shook up the leaderboard. Seoul Dynasty lost at the start of the week to LA Valiant, which not only pushed Seoul Dynasty out of the playoffs, but gave a chance to not just LA Valiant, but also Houston Outlaws, Boston Uprising and even Philadelphia Fusion to make it to the playoffs. But then, in the matchup between Philadelphia Fusion and Boston Uprising defeated Philadelphia Fusion, crushing Philadelphia Fusion's hope of being in the playoffs. It was not only that, it looked shaky even for London Spitfire this week as they were off to a rocky start. They struggled against Houston Outlaws, losing to them 3-1. Then later in the week, they even lost to NYXL, who went on to claim the number 1 seed spot after defeating London Spitfire in a series of close matches. But London Spitfire somehow managed to still hold on to the third spot and also made their way into the playoffs. So now it was up to Houston Outlaws and Boston Uprising, who had to fight to buy their admission passes for the final playoff spot. And what a matchup it was! Each match mattered for both teams and it showed in the way both these teams played. It was a roller coaster all throughout, with nail-biting moments and neck-to-neck competition where both teams clashed back and forth. It was a doozy. Nobody knew who's going to win. Both teams were so well prepared for each other, but it was Houston Outlaws who were victorious at last, with Cool Matt from Houston Outlaws showing off his world-class Zarya skills.
Good start, but Fanny's got to erase over that little error, and that's it! Cool Matt, 100 energy, Graviton serve, all the things you want in a world-class Zarya player, and he has delivered. He's come up with the goods here, and the Houston Outlaws have got a big smile on their face. They are 1 round away from the playoffs.
While Jake really shined throughout the matches, and Barney, oh my god, what a brilliant mercy he was. He somehow managed to survive at the most key clutch moments.
This point still remains under control of the Houston Outlaws. This will be crushing for the Boston Uprising to lose this fight. Give him the Tetley, mate!
Somehow Bonnie able to stay alive throughout that entire fight. They're trying to get Raucus out. Gamsu's on Raucus for a while. Bonnie and Valkyrie just healing him up. Then the Rocket Barrage comes in. Bonnie comes in and kills Dreamcatcher in the sky. Huge plays from Bonnie. Play a mercy here.
Let's just take a moment here and digest how critical this match was. If Boston Uprising would have won by 2 or more maps, it would have given them a chance to make it to the playoffs, as their map score would trump LA Valiant. But if Boston Uprising would have won by just one map, then LA Valiant would still hold on to the third spot on the leaderboard and move on to the playoffs based on their higher map score. But sadly, that was not to be, as Houston Outlaws won against Boston Uprising, pushing both LA Valiant and Boston Uprising out of the playoffs. Moving on to the playoffs, Houston versus London Spitfire. Now, Houston had beaten London Spitfire this week, but it seemed that London Spitfire had adapted to them, and so after losing to Houston Outlaws on the first map, London Spitfire were able to defeat Houston Outlaws 3-1, with Prophet's Riptide crushing Houston Outlaws in the fourth map, facilitating London Spitfire to move on to the grand finals to face off the Seed 1 and the top team on the leaderboard, the New York Excels.
Remember, 2 ticks so far for the Outlaws, and Cormat's found Birdring early. This Riptide could be the game. It is! Banny's taken down. That's the pick the Spitfire we're looking for. They might have just sealed the deal right here and now.
Now, NY Excels had already defeated London Spitfire that day itself, as the playoff took place right after the week's matches. So if you had to put your money on it, it was on New York Excels, especially when London Spitfire did not get off to a good start, as New York Excels won the first 2 games. But then, anything can happen in this league, as London Spitfire performed a full reverse swing, picked up a win on Horizon, then another on Numbani, and pushed NY Excels to a tiebreaker round on Dorado, where once again Prophet's Riptide tired them off to a $100,000 victory.
One last fight to decide our victor. Here we go. Here comes a Riptire. Prophet, a pick here could be $100,000 ultimate. Could he do it? Oh, he's out to the mercy. He gets Arc. That's huge. Transcendence comes in from Jonak.
This week, if anything, showed how close the race to the top in this league is, where anything can happen. London Spitfire lost both to Houston Outlaws and NY Excels before winning over both of them in the end to become the champions of Stage 1. But even though London Spitfire are the champions of Stage 1, they are still on the third spot on the leaderboard, with Houston Outlaws and New York Excels still sitting above them. And it is the leaderboard that will count towards the league, not the Stage 1 playoffs. All the matches this week were so close, with Boston Uprising versus Houston Outlaws, which was a real ripper, especially considering that both those teams have Western players, and the fact that so much was riding on this match. But both the London Spitfire versus New York Excel matches was so exhilarating, and I would recommend you guys to definitely check both those matches out if you have not checked them. Now, going into Stage 2, the standing looks very interesting, with Houston Outlaws, London Spitfire, LA Valiant and Seoul Dynasty all tied in when we consider their win-loss matrix. They are separated from each other just by their map score, but even then we have to consider that Boston Uprising is not far behind Seoul Dynasty. And if you look closely, Boston Uprising have actually a better map score than Seoul Dynasty, meaning they can still upset the balance in Stage 2. So it's an exciting premise going in for Stage 2, where the teams will be playing in this non-mercy meta and playing on new maps. Now at MixedUp, we will also be changing the format going further into the league. Rather than just giving you updates and information, we would like to give you insights into the key strategies, explain the tactics employed and the big plays that have been made by individual players, packing all this in a way that you can learn from them, apply them or pick those up and adapt them to your own playstyle. Honestly, that makes more sense, as that is something that is evergreen and any Overwatch player or a team can use those things. So I'm super excited for that. We would also be making few other unique league videos that are more geared towards educating, with elements of entertainment sprinkled in. So do remember to subscribe to us and push the bell icon for notifications. This was KanKicks, kicking out.